Hello everybody, how are you doing? I hope you are doing well. I'm very happy to start today's video in which I'll be introducing conditional sentences. I will particularly be focusing on conditional type 0, conditional type 1, and conditional type 2. For conditional type 3 and mixed conditional 1 and 2, I'll be introducing them in the next video, okay? Now let's get started, and before that, let me share my screen, okay? So the first question that you may ask is, what is a conditional sentence? A conditional sentence is a sentence that gives a condition and the outcome of the condition, right? It gives a condition and the result of the condition. For example, if it snows, the game will be cancelled. If it snows, the game will be cancelled. So here, the condition is if it snows, and the outcome of this condition is the game will be cancelled, right? Now, conditional sentences are made up of two clauses. This is very important. The if clause and the main clause. Whether we are talking about conditional type 0 or conditional type 1, conditional type 3 or conditional type 2, right? Or even mixed conditionals, all of them are made up of two clauses, the if clause and the main clause. So if I were you, I would tell this to the teacher. So here, if I were you is the if clause, in which we have the condition. I would tell this to the teacher. This is called the main clause, in which we have the outcome or the result of the condition. There is something very important to note here, which is the use of a comma after the if clause. If you prefer to start your conditional sentence with the if clause, then you must use comma after the if clause, like here. If I were you, and then I have comma, I would tell this to the teacher. But if you prefer to start your conditional sentence with the main clause, you shouldn't use comma at all, okay? I can, for example, say, I would tell this to the teacher if I were you. I would tell this to the teacher if I were you. So here I started my sentence with the main clause, so no comma is used, right? There are four types of conditionals, as I said, conditional type 0, type 1, type 2, and type 3, okay? And of course, we have two other conditional sentences, which are mixed conditional 1 and mixed conditional 2, that we are going to see in the next video. Now let's start with conditional type 0. Conditional type 0 expresses a general fact or a general truth, something that we all accept as being true, or a situation in which one thing always causes the other, always, okay? If you take a look at this illustration here, you will get an idea about the form of conditional type 0. So in the if clause, we use if plus simple present. And in the main clause, we use simple present. So we have if plus simple present, simple present. This is the form of type 0 conditional sentences. If you snooze, you lose. If you snooze, you lose. The verb snooze here is in the simple present, and the same thing for the verb to lose. And of course, please remember the comma. If you prefer to start your conditional sentence with the if clause, then you must use comma like here. So as we said, conditional type 0 expresses a fact. What does this mean? It means that if it happens, then this happens, okay? If something happens, then something else happens always, right? That's what we mean by a fact, okay? It means it always happens and everybody accepts it as being true. Now I want you to remember the form, please. Remember, if plus simple present in the if clause and simple present in the main clause. Let's consider the examples here. If you rest, you rest. If you think you can, you can. If you freeze water, it turns into ice. If you mix yellow and blue, you get green. So in all of these sentences here, I started the conditional sentence with the if clause. That's why we have comma separating the two clauses in all of the examples that I cited here. So if you rest, comma, you rest. If you think you can, comma, you can. If you freeze water, comma, it turns into ice. If you mix yellow and blue, you get green. Okay, we have comma as well here. And of course, the tense is simple present, simple present. If you rest, the verb rest here is in the simple present. You rest, the simple present as well. And the same thing applies to all the examples that I cited here, okay? So the form or structure again, if clause, simple present, main clause, simple present. In conditional type 0, the words if and when are interchangeable. What does this mean? Okay, it means that in conditional type 0, you can either use if or when, because in this conditional, they are interchangeable. They mean the same thing. But this applies only to conditional type 0. Please don't use this in conditional 1, 2, and 3, okay? Now here, when you put ice in fire, it melts. You can either say this by using when, or you can say, if you put ice in fire, it melts. So both ways are acceptable and correct. When you heat water, it boils, or if you heat water, it boils, right? So the same thing. So remember, in conditional type 0, if and when are interchangeable. With a zero conditional sentence, the message is expressed as a fact. That doesn't mean that it's true, of course, okay? When we say it is a fact, it doesn't mean that it is true. Probably it is a fact today, but it may change in the future. Here I have some worksheets for you to practice the use of conditional type 0, okay? So in this worksheet here, I have like 4 or 5 exercises to do, right? I will post them as downloadable worksheets on Google Classroom, of course, and on Moodle. So you can download them and work at your pace, okay? For example, here, complete the zero conditional sentences with the correct forms of the verbs in brackets. And what you have to do here is just to conjugate the verbs between brackets in the simple present. That's all, right? Complete the zero conditional sentences by choosing the correct pairs of verbs from the box. Put the verbs in the correct form. So the same thing here. Choose the correct pairs. Choose the correct pairs of verbs that are in the box here, and conjugate them here appropriately. Okay. Complete the facts. Use the verbs below and the zero conditional. So the same thing here. Use the verbs here: water, get, heat, melt, and freeze. Write the zero conditional sentences using the prompts provided here. So here we have certain prompts, okay? Try to use a conditional sentence, conditional type 0 sentence, using the prompts, okay? For example, I feel faint, I see blood, okay? So the sentence is, I feel faint if I see blood. So please do the same with the rest. On this page here, also use conditional type 0 by conjugating the verbs between parentheses in the simple present. Okay, so these exercises are meant just for you to practice. They're not very challenging, okay, but they are very good for you to practice, okay? Rewrite each pairs of sentences to make one sentence with the zero conditional, okay? Here, rewrite the sentences here. You heat water to 100 degrees, it boils. So, turn these two sentences into a conditional sentence here. And the same thing with the rest below. Write the sentences with the zero conditional. I wake up late, I be late for school. People eat too many sweets, they get fat, okay? So please do the same with the other examples here. Now let's move to conditional type 1. Conditional type 1 sentences state the result of a hypothetical but possible future event, okay? It's hypothetical but possible. This illustration here shows you the form. So in the if clause, you have simple present, but in the main clause, you have will plus verb or simple future, right? So if you remember, in conditional type 0, we have if plus simple present, and in the main clause, we have a simple present. But in conditional type 1, we have if plus simple present in the if clause and will plus verb in the main clause. For example, if he finds the diamond, he will celebrate. If he finds the diamond, he will celebrate, right? Conditional type 1, we use it, of course, as I said, to talk about a possible future event. If it happens, then this will happen, right? That's why we say a possible future event. Examples: if I find her address, I will write her a letter. If I find her address, I will write her a letter. If she does not hurry, she will be late. If you lend him some money, he will not give it back to you. So as you see, in the 3 examples I cited here, we have the simple present in the if clause and the simple future in the main clause. And of course, we have comma after the if clauses because all of these sentences start with the if clause. So the form here again, if clause, we have simple present, main clause, simple future. If you don't respect the rules, you will be punished. If you don't respect the rules, simple present, you will be punished, simple future. If she doesn't get better, they will take her to the doctor. If she doesn't get better, they will take her to the doctor. We also use the first conditional with modal verbs in the main clause instead of the simple future. Now, the structure here or the form, we don't have just this form, we have 2 other forms that I'm going to explain right now. So you can either use the simple future here or modal verbs or imperatives, imperative sentences. Okay, you start with the verb right away. So in the case of using modals, here I have a few examples. If you feel fainting, you should go to the hospital immediately. So this is also conditional type 1, but instead of using the simple future, we use a modal auxiliary or a modal verb. If you feel fainting, you should go to the hospital immediately. If you have finished, you may go home. If you are tired, you might go to bed. If you prepare enough, you can pass the exam. So in the main clause, we have simple future, modal auxiliaries, as I explained now, and imperative sentences. What do you mean by imperative sentences? An imperative sentence is a sentence in which we have an order, for example, or a command, right? It starts with the verb right away. For example, if you feel fainting, go to the hospital immediately. So here, I started with go. If you feel fainting, go to the hospital immediately. So this is like a piece of advice. If you have finished, go home. Okay? I didn't use the simple future, and I didn't use the modal auxiliary may. So I said, if you have finished, go home. If you are tired, go to bed. If you are tired, go to bed. So this is also conditional type 1. If you feel headache, take an aspirin, for example. If you feel headache, take an aspirin. If you see him, tell him that I want to meet him, for example. So this is conditional type 1, in which we use imperatives, okay? Imperatives instead of simple future or modal auxiliaries. I hope that's clear. Now again, here we have some practice worksheets that you'll find together with the video on Google Classroom, right? And of course, you'll find them under the video on Moodle as well, right? Match the sentences, or match the sentence halves here. You have the if clause and the main clause, so match them to make a correct conditional sentence. Choose the best answer here. If I find the book you want, I send you a text message. So here, I'll definitely find the book. I might find the book. Which one is correct? Of course it is I might find the book, right? And the same thing for the rest of the sentences here. Okay, choose the correct answer, either A or B. Complete these superstitions. If a cat wash behind its ears, it rain. So here you need to conjugate the verbs between parentheses in the simple present in the if clause and the simple future in the main clause. For example, if a cat washes behind its ears, it will rain. It will rain, because here we are talking about conditional type 1. If the bride, the verb to make, her own dress, it bring bad luck. So please complete the exercise by conjugating the verbs between parentheses appropriately. Complete the first conditional sentence with your own ideas. Now here, you complete with your own ideas. I want you to be creative and to come up with a very good ideas. For example, I'll be happy if. I'll be happy if what? Complete. If it rains all weekend, something will happen. What is it? If I forget my best friend's birthday, something will happen. What is it? I'll pass all my exams if what? Okay. If I don't feel well tomorrow morning, something will happen. What is it? I'll go to bed early if what? I'll be disappointed if what? So please complete that using your own thoughts and ideas. On this page here, we have something similar, okay? Fill in the blanks using the appropriate form of the verb given in the brackets. An example is given below. For example, if she worked hard, she passed. If she works hard, she will pass. So again, this is conditional type 1, so please practice by completing the exercise here, right? Now we move to conditional type 2, right? What is conditional type 2? A second conditional sentence, or conditional type 2, state the result of an unlikely event occurring, okay? For example, if the boat sank, we use it also to express an untruth being truth, okay? Example, if they were on time. Now, conditional sentences type 2 refer to situations in the present, an action that could happen if the present situation were different, okay? I don't really expect the situation to change, however, I just imagine what would happen if, right? Now this is the use of conditional type 2. But generally we use it to talk about unlikely situations or unreal situations in the present. The form is this one here. As you see, in the if clause we have simple past, and in the main clause we have would plus verb. Okay, for example, if she knew the answers, she would pass. If she knew the answers, she would pass. Unlikely event. If this happened, then this would happen. Okay, if this happened, then this would happen. So unlikely events in the present, or unreal situations in the present, unreal situations. That's what I meant by an untruth being truth. Now let's consider the examples here. If I won the lottery, I would help the poor in my village. If I won the lottery, I would help the poor in my village. But it's very unlikely that I will win the lottery. Okay, it's very unlikely. If I had a house in the Maldives, I would go to it every summer. Now here we are talking about something unreal. or unreal situation in the present. In the present, I don't have a house in the Maldives, okay? If I had a house in the Maldives, I would go to it every summer. But I just imagine, okay? I just imagine what would happen if something were the case. If I saw the burglar, I would tell the police, okay? So the condition here in conditional sentences type 2, okay, is either unlikely or um, unreal, okay? So the form, again, we have simple past in if clause and would plus base verb in the main clause. What do you mean by base verb? It is the bare infinitive or the infinitive without to. Like, for example, to play, this is the infinitive. Play is the base verb or bare infinitive. Now, examples here. If I saw the thief, I would tell the police. If I were you, I would quit smoking now. If you had a car, you would give me a ride to the station. If you had a car, you would give me a ride to the station. So here in the first one, we are talking about an unlikely situation. If I saw the thief, I would tell the police. So this is unlikely. It's unlikely for me to see the thief. If I were you, I would quit smoking. So here we are talking about an unreal present. I am not you in the present. And so the outcome is impossible, right? If you had a car, you would give me a ride to the station. Here we also we are talking about an unreal situation. In the present, you don't have a car, so you will not give me a ride to the station, right? So I'm just imagining that if you had a car, you would give me a ride to the station. But this will never happen as long as you don't have a car, right? Here I have practice again for conditional type 2. One of the anecdotes by the ancient Greek writer Aesop concerns a group of animals who, one day, were discussing the popularity of the elephant. They all agreed that the elephant was the most popular animal in the forest, but none of them could give a satisfactory explanation of this fact. The giraffe said, "If the elephant a long neck like mine, then it be easy to understand his popularity." So complete the sentences here using the appropriate words. For example, let me do this for you. If the elephant had a long neck, okay, so here we use the verb to have. If the elephant had a long neck like mine, then it would be easy to understand his popularity, right? He would be the tallest animal in the forest. The peacock said, "If the elephant a beautiful tail like mine, it'd be easy to understand. He be the most beautiful animal in the forest." So please complete the conditional sentences as said by these different animals here. On the second page, look at the pictures, use the words below to complete the second conditional sentences. If I were, so here you've got the words to use to make a complete conditional 2 sentences. If it was, were sunny, don't stay at home. So complete this or use the words to make a correct conditional sentence type 2. And the same thing for the other examples. Complete the second conditional questions with the verbs in brackets. So here you conjugate the verbs in brackets. Underline the mistakes in the second conditional sentences and write the correct words on the right. So the first one is done for you, like an example. What would you do if you would see a big hairy spider in your bed? What would you do? So this is the main clause. This is the main clause. Okay, so the sentence here started with the main clause. What would you do if you, now we said, what do we have in the if clause? In conditional type 2. We have if plus simple past, but here we don't have simple past. So the correct sentence is, what would you do if you saw a big hairy spider in your bed? The second one, if I spilled orange juice on my English homework, if I spilled orange juice on my English homework, I will be upset. So the if clause is correct, but what's wrong with the main clause? We do not use will, we use would, okay? I would be upset. So here, will should be would, right? So please do the same with the other examples and find the mistake or find the word that is incorrect. All right, so that's all for today's video. I hope it is clear. Of course, if you have any questions related to anything that I explained here, please write your questions on Google Classroom, okay? Don't write questions related to the content of the videos on YouTube, right? YouTube is only an intermediary between me and you, right? I upload videos on YouTube so that you can go back to them whenever you like. So YouTube is not meant for you to ask questions related to the content of the video. Please use our Google Classroom. All right, so thank you very much for watching and see you in the next video. Take good care. Bye.